When I have a guest come onto the show that says it's not about the money, but it's not about the money, my ears perk up instantly because I'm all about listening to someone talk powerfully about money in a unique way. My guest today, Sonia Highfield, is a 2 times business owner, podcast host, and the wealth expansion coach for creative entrepreneurs. This conversation today offers powerful, intuitive guidance and potent, impactful reframes that have the potential to change the trajectory of your life moving forward.
Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, where we bridge the worlds of the taboo topic of money with the woo-woo world of manifestation. We're your hosts, Chris and Jenni Schultz.
We're not just about dollars and cents around here. We're all about lifestyle design. You can be working towards financial independence while still living a life you love today.
Get ready for insightful conversations with guests who have embraced the FIRE movement by achieving financial independence and retiring early, as well as entrepreneurs and individuals who defied the norm and have paved their own way to a life they love.
Together, we'll explore the powerful connection between mindset, financial freedom, and living a purposeful life. And of course, we'll be sharing our own journey to how we carved our path to a 7-figure net worth before hitting the big 4-0. Are you ready to ignite your financial future? Then let's dive right in.
Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, where your journey to financial independence and the life you love begins now.
Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, Sonia.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm pumped to have you on the show today, and I would love for you to share with the listeners just who you are and what your story is.
Yeah, so I am on my second business. I feel like it's my second career life. My first life, I started as a photographer, and that's what I had gone to school for, and that's what I thought I was always going to do. And then I really got hit over the head from the universe, as I like to say, with this calling to help other creatives with their businesses and really with their money mindsets and even pricing, because I really saw so many talented creative folks who were not doing what they love and like sharing their gifts in the world. And so, yeah, I started this mission and this business called Real World Creatives. And I've been supporting creative folks in all different kinds of industries for almost 10 years now. And it's really been quite a journey. I started with straightforward business coaching and a bit of the money mindset piece, and really have gone down the rabbit hole to become an intuitive guide and really prioritizing not only my intuition, but my clients' intuitions and working with their soul guides via the Akashic records and combining that with the very tangible, practical pieces of building a business and working on their mindset. And yeah, doing this work that I call wealth expansion work.
Fun. So fun. A few things popped up in there. First of all, what is your definition of wealth?
Yeah, so I had this big aha moment when someone else told me the original definition of wealth, which is the condition of well-being. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's really the work that I'm doing with people, because everyone was showing up saying, they needed help with money, making more money, money healing, and all that stuff. But then we would get into all of the inner work, right? And worthiness and confidence and self-love and all these different things. And so I really love that original definition about well-being, because then we can apply this idea of wealth to every area in our lives and businesses. So as I like to say, it's not all about the money, but it's not about the money, right? It's both, it's all. And the cool thing is that we all get to choose what wealth means to us, right? What well-being looks like and feels like in our minds and bodies and businesses is going to be different for everyone. And so, yeah, I get to, support people in figuring out what is wealth to them and how to really honor that and pursue that.
Mm-hmm. That's a fun play on it's not about the money, but it's not about the money. Because we all want the things that we want. And oftentimes it requires money to get those things.
Yeah, that's the world that we live in, right? We need money, and we've started businesses because maybe we have a vision, we have a calling, we have, something we're really passionate about. But that's also our livelihoods. We needed to pay the bills and, do all the big, beautiful things that we want to do in the world, whether that's taking care of your kids or donating to causes that you care about, right? We
Mm.
need the money.
Yeah, definitely. And you had mentioned that you help people connect with their intuition to guide them, whether it's building their business or maybe even on figuring out what that well-being looks like for them. And
Yeah.
what is a simple way that you can explain for somebody to learn to tap into their intuition?
Mm. So, one way would be to connect with your desires, right? Everyone has intuition and it can come through in varying levels, right? And varying degrees of intensity, depending on, yeah, how willing you are to listen to that inner knowing, that inner wisdom. And it's different than the ego, right? Because the ego has things to tell us that are also important, but that intuition is really like that core inner wisdom and inner knowing. And people feel their intuition or hear their intuition in all kinds of different ways, but I would say if you're trying to tap into your desires. When you get down to the root of what do I actually want from my life, who do I feel called to be in the world, what do I want to experience from life? All of those kind of like innate desires. And yeah, without kind of the big ego that might come in and tell you what it should look like or what you should want or do. I find like an exercise that's really helpful is to imagine that, well, I do it via journal. If you're into journaling, you can just say, if I'm being really honest with myself, what do I want right now? And just letting it pour out, knowing like no one else needs to know about it, right? It's just for you.
Mhm.
That's one way to really help tap into your intuition is like honoring your deep, deep inner truth and calling. And in the form maybe of desires, if that feels easiest to tap into, what do I want?
Yeah, that seems like a really tangible channel to go down to find that. Because you can think of times in your life where you haven't listened to that, almost like that gut pull that you're like, oh, I want to do this thing. I feel like I should do this thing. And you go against it and you use your brain or your logic and you're like, oh, but I feel like I should do this because that's the
Yeah.
expectation of me. So you're separating yourself from your inner compass, your intuition,
Yes.
driving.
Yes, totally. And that's so common, right? We're humans. It's okay. And what I like to tell people is that your intuition is logical.
Mm.
Right? So a lot of times people will be like, it's not logical what I want to do, but actually your intuition is giving you the most logical guidance for you, right? And
Mm.
sometimes it takes a lot of deconditioning, getting really comfortable listening to those inner pulls and that inner knowing. But I bet so many people have that experience of like, well, I knew this is what I wanted, but I took a different route. And now I've come full circle back
Mhm.
around to like what I knew I always wanted or what felt like it was right for me.
Mhm.
And I think that's a thing too, is when following your path of wealth and, success and all of that stuff is like, it doesn't mean that it's going to be an easy path. It just means it's going to be right for you.
Mhm. Yeah, well said. So you're working with creatives, trying to get them on this path of creating that well-being sense of wealth for them. You said you have pillars of a wealth mindset. What does that kind of look like when you're working with them?
Yeah. So I have these three pillars of wealth mindset that came through that I think are very simple but potent. The first one is that money doesn't buy happiness. You have to pursue both, right? So two tracks, money, happiness, you can pursue both of them in equal intensity if you like. But I think that really is true. It's like if most people can experience making a lot of money, they will tell you like that's not the thing that's going to really fulfill you deep inside or provide you happiness, but it can absolutely provide you a lot of comfort, pleasure, fun, entertainment, safety, stability, healthcare, right? Like it can provide you a lot of things. And so I think a lot of people have been misled on this path of like, oh, if I'm pursuing money, I can't also be taking care of myself, pursuing my happiness at the same rate. So that's
Yeah.
the first pillar.
Okay.
The second pillar is a little sassy and it says that broke don't help broke.
Ooh.
right? So a lot of people have that kind of martyr archetype, or this feeling of if I have more, that means other people have less. And my take is that you having what you want and need in the world doesn't have to take away from people. And in fact, you having what you want and need and being well resourced allows you to take care and contribute to the people, the causes, the planet, everything that you care about in a way that is generous and abundant, right? So you having less than doesn't help anyone else have more. And then the third pillar is about legacy. And legacy means different things to different people, right? I've covered these pillars in a lot of workshops. And a lot of times people's first thought around legacy is their family, right? But there's a lot of people that don't have kids, don't want kids, maybe aren't connected to their family, right? Like that piece doesn't really resonate for them. And so I like to remind people your legacy can be the books you're writing, the donations you make to your library, the causes and things that you're contributing to in the world that you care about. You know, maybe it's like creating a scholarship at the school that you went to, right? There's so many different ways to have a positive impact beyond your lifetime. So, yeah, people are just invited to consider what their legacy is and how their wealth goals are contributing to that, right? Like financially and creatively. Like what's the imprint you're leaving on the world, and monetarily as well. Like what can you contribute beyond your lifetime?
Yeah, those are really powerful pillars for sure. And the legacy piece, that's so important there, how you touched on, yeah, not everybody has kids. So to still be able to have that frame of mind that you can be leaving a legacy beyond yourself is a really fun play on what is going to happen to me or my existence or my contribution to this world
Yeah.
on a bigger, expansive level. That's really cool. In there, you say you work with creatives, and back in your intro, you were talking about how creatives often tend to kind of underprice. So how do you work with creatives to actually give themselves a price that is allowing them the money, I guess, at the end of the day that they want? Because it's not about the
Yeah.
money, right? But it is about the money.
Yes. Yeah. So definitely being familiar with your own numbers is a process and a key, right? And I was totally one of those people who used to like avoid my bank account at all costs. I used to have a lot of kind of money anxiety and was very avoidant. And being able to get to a place where I was comfortable investigating my numbers made a big difference. But I encourage people to price themselves to profit. And I do have a little money formula that people can plug into. And here's where I see pricing mistakes often happening with, I say creatives, but it's really people in like a range of industries, right? So it's not just artists, it's a whole range of industries of different kinds of service providers and creators and consultants, coaches, all the things. But where I see people make a lot of mistakes with pricing is that they're only either considering like their business expenses and not really the cost of like their whole life, or they are trying to just take other people's numbers, right? They say someone does something similar to me, I'm just going to use the prices that they've put out there, which is not always wrong completely, right? Like it's good to do some market research and see kind of where you land in the industry on pricing. But pricing is very subjective. And I think, again, knowing your own numbers, not just your expenses, but also looking at, okay, what are my savings goals? What are my retirement goals? How much fun money do I want? And then I always put in this little, caveat of considering your desired expenses. So when you're looking at like your year ahead and your financial goals and how you're pricing your work, thinking not just about what do I need to cover what I already have, but what are those desired expenses that I want to bring in? Like maybe I want to hire a social media manager. Maybe I want to have a massage twice a month. Maybe I want to take more vacations, right? So it's easy to feel like, well, I make just enough money and no more. But again, when we check in with ourselves and see what are our realistic expenses, but also those desired expenses so that we can be growing and start to factor those into how you're pricing yourself. And I think it can be really tricky because, again, it's subjective, and also value can be very subjective, right? And so even though you take wedding photos and someone else takes wedding photos, the value of those and even the quality of those, they can be vastly different. And so I get it, pricing is tricky, but I think kind of the best way to go about it is to really be considering your own numbers and start from a place that's realistic financially for you to be able to sustain and be able to show up, do what you want to do in the world, right? Help the people you want to help and pay your bills and then some.
Yeah. And your frame in there of coming from of your desired expenses, that's a really fun flip on just like, oh, expenses are going up, but oh, yay, I want massages next year. That's a really expansive place to come from. This is an expense that I want because I am getting something for it. And therefore, I'm going to charge more. And as a result of me charging more, I'm going to give it 110% and deliver on the customer service, right? You step into a place of empowerment, I think, when you feel like you're getting charged for your worth.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got to be like, it's got to feel good, right? And I think that's why a lot of times the people that I work with are super kind and generous and creative and talented and absolutely want to give their people everything that they can. But if they don't have prices that match that energetic exchange, as well as maybe deliverables, then people end up being burnt out. And that's a big piece of the clientele that I work with is, okay, I love what I do, but I'm completely burnt out because I've been overgiving, undercharging. Now I'm resentful and I don't want to show up and get more clients because I know that I'm not receiving what I need. And so, yeah, there's an energy piece, there's a money piece, and some other pieces along the way too, right? Around like boundaries and mindset and all that. But yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I think this is the perfect segue into one of my favorite questions on the show. And that is, what is your biggest piece of advice that you can give to somebody who's really wanting to step into that bigger, best version of themselves?
Yeah, I think kind of going back to what we talked about at the beginning, which is following your desires and really following your intuition, because that is going to lead you on the best path for you. Then, yeah, not being afraid to price yourself to profit and figure out what that means for you and how you're going to operate in alignment with your own values and integrity and like ethics and all that jazz. Don't be afraid to go off the beaten path, like follow where you're called, and then make it supportive for you, make it sustainable for you.
Mm-hmm. This is a fun convo because I'm one of those people that I don't like to be put into a box. I like to be able to say, oh, okay, I see the box, but maybe I fit into it, but maybe I can look around it and see what else is out there. So it's kind of a fun playground. And in this playground metaphor here, where can listeners reach out to you, find out more about you, more about your fun stuff?
So you can find me mostly everywhere under Real World Creatives. That's my website, and Instagram, where I hang out most of the time. And then my podcast as well, which is Wealthy in Pajamas. And we are on Spotify. And someday when Apple approves me, I'll be on iTunes someday. And I also have a YouTube channel under Real World Creatives, but I have videos from my podcast there, and I do really fun interviews with people like you and other awesome creatives. And we talk in our jammies on money and mindset and business and all the things.
Yeah, so much fun. Thank you for joining me on the show today, Sonia.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Manifestation and Money podcast. If you're looking for ways to manifest more money and more abundance in your life, I invite you to join me in the Manifest More Moolah program. It would be you, me, and a small group of other equally cool humans meeting weekly in a Zoom room, exploring different ways to manifest more money and more abundance into your life. For more details, visit www.manifestationandmoney.com. Thank you for listening to the Manifestation of Money podcast. I truly, truly appreciate all of you for listening. Cheers to creating a life you love and the income streams to support it.